Hello and a very warm welcome to the Question Hour show from the Parliament House complex, your show where we bring you important unstart questions asked by the members of the upper house during the current session and the response given by the government. I'm Kriti Mishra and joining me is my colleague Rajat Kain.
Thank you.
So Rajat, let's take our viewers through important questions and answers in this edition of Question Hour. Let's begin with the first question, and this one has been asked by member Vinay P. Sahasrabudhe, and this one pertains to the Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare. And Mr. Sahasrabudhe has asked the government about the number of officials from the Joint Secretary and above rank who were sent for some capacity building or training courses abroad.
Well, in its rather brief reply, the government said during last 3 years, 24 officers of the rank of Joint Secretary and above from Ministry of Agriculture and Farmers Welfare were sent abroad for capacity building and training courses. Submission of reports is mandatory for all officers travelling abroad within a month after the return to India, the government said, and also went on to say that feedback of all the officers has been very positive. The knowledge gained at these institutions of repute would be very useful in improving outcomes of their areas of responsibilities.
And joining us on the Question Hour show is questioner and member of Rajya Sabha, Mr. Vinay P. Sahasrabudhe. Sir, welcome to Rajya Sabha Television and thank you so much for talking to us. I must concede that you've asked a very important question and a very interesting one about Joint Secretary and other officers going to abroad of different ministries seeking training of capacity building. What was the intention of asking this question?
See, basically it was a kind of audit of the mechanism in a very broad sense of the term, because it has been a practice and a very good practice. There is nothing against going abroad for the sake of widening one's horizons and getting to learn new things. There are several things which this country need to replicate, learn from other countries. So going abroad is a good thing and people should go get exposure, get some more experience, add to their own knowledge and then come back here. But the but is that they need to implement on the knowledge that they have acquired there, here in this country. Otherwise, going abroad becomes a not so useful exercise. And therefore, this question was to seek the information as to how many Joint Secretary and above level officials were sent abroad during the last 3 years, then what kind of knowledge they could gather after going over there, and whether it has been properly documented, what is the feedback, and whether that knowledge gets disseminated amongst those who are not so lucky to be able to go abroad. So that was the purpose, and I am really very happy that the government has been very forthcoming insofar as the responses to these questions are concerned.
Sir, I do recall that even in Rajya Sabha, you said that Estonia-like capacity building provision should also be created in India.
See, Estonia is a very small country. Nobody would even remember what is the capital of it. But there is an institution which teaches about e-governance. And I came across that a particular department sent some 36 the electronics and e-governance related officials in a good number. 36 officials went over there and learned. And the chairman of the Rajya Sabha, Honorable Vice President, also shared his own experience that the country is really advancing insofar as e-governance is concerned, and there is a lot to learn from the small, tiny country like Estonia for India. And therefore I suggested that if that institution is doing such a wonderful job, why can't we have some kind of a sub-center of that institution here in India? So likewise, many possibilities may emerge, and therefore this is very important. Another angle to asking this question was, and I asked this pertinently to the Department of Agriculture, that in India also we have several other developing countries coming here for training. So while we send our people for training elsewhere, other countries send their people for training in India. And we have to build upon that. For example, training institution and training foreign country officials has become a soft power instrument, if I may say so. And for example, Israel, they have an agency called Mishra, and they conduct routinely such training programs. I was lucky enough to participate in one of them some 2 decades back. So I would suggest that these kinds of things also need to be paid attention to when we talk about capacity building and training.
So you made a very important point about soft power. How do we further augment our soft power?
See, as I said, India has several things to offer to the world. Say, for example, health sciences. The kind of challenges Indians are facing, Indian doctors are facing, in Europe, they don't face these challenges. In America, they don't face these challenges. So naturally, when you face a challenge, you acquire or you create some new knowledge. A new knowledge creation happens in the process. And therefore, that knowledge needs to be, first of all, properly documented and later on disseminated to the global community. That can happen. That also, as I said, is a instrument of enhancing our soft power. So in that sense, at the same time, when you conduct a training program, say for example in agriculture or in women and child development, the way we conduct our village panchayats with a very remarkable participation of the women. Now, these are the things which several countries in Africa, in Southeast Asia would like to learn from India as to how you are going to make this, how you have been able to make this happen. So, in a way, we build bridges with the young and upcoming kind of talented officials from other countries. And not just officials, but elected representatives as well. And therefore, I consider that India as a whole can definitely claim to be a scintillating example, converting our country and the way we conducted the governance over here as a university of democracy. And this university certainly can help other emerging democracies to work successfully on democratic governance.
The next question was asked by Ashok Bajpai from Ministry of Railways. His question was whether the government is aware that large number of complaints about unhygienic food being served in railways keep pouring in.
While the government has given a very comprehensive reply to this question, and the government goes on to say that it is a continuous endeavour of Indian Railways to provide quality and hygienic food to passengers along with maintaining cleanliness in base kitchens and also pantry cars. To ensure this hygiene and cleanliness of base kitchens or pantry cars, following steps have been taken. Now these measures include IRCTC has upgraded 46 kitchen units in the last 2 years. To ensure centralized monitoring of the kitchen activities, CCTV cameras have been installed in 39 kitchen units. Sharing of live streaming of kitchen units through the website of IRCTC has also been made operational. The government further says that to ensure compliance with food safety norms, Food Safety and Standards Authority of India, which is the FSSAI, certification from designated food safety officers of each catering unit has been made mandatory. Food safety supervisors have been deployed at kitchen units to monitor food safety and hygiene practices. Food samples collected by food safety officers or supervisors are sent to the nominated accredited labs under Food Safety and Standard Act for analysis and testing. Penalties are also imposed in cases of detection of any unsatisfactory food sample. Let's move on to the next question, and this one pertains to the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship, and this one has been asked by member Tiruchi Siva. And Mr. Siva has asked about the number of jobs demanded by persons with disabilities for the year 2015-16.
The minister in his reply said the Ministry of Skill Development and Entrepreneurship is implementing its flagship scheme Pradhan Mantri Kaushal Vikas Yojana through National Skills Development Corporation, a public-private partnership organization. NSDC has facilitated creation of sector skills councils, which are industry-led bodies to ensure addressing skill requirements of various sectors. There are total 39 functional SSCs, including the skill councils for persons with disabilities, and there are job roles with 8 disabilities for PWD candidates under non-PMKVY schemes to cater the skilling needs of PWD candidates. To create and ascertain employers' demand, SCPWD conducted country-wise employers orientation and sensitization workshop during last year. A number of employers have come forward and started employing PWD candidates in hospitality, IT, e-commerce, apparel and textile sectors. Now, employers have also signed memorandum of understanding with SCPWD for opportunities on placement, apprenticeship, sharing of job availability and other important factors. Now, MSD doesn't maintain any database for number of jobs and employers available in the market who are willing to hire PWDs. Well, the next question was from member Elamaram Karim, and his question was to Ministry of Commerce and Industry. He sought to know the extent of review of India-ASEAN FTA that has been agreed by the Government of India and the last ASEAN Summit in Bangkok.
At the 16th ASEAN Economic Ministers, consultations were held on 10th of September 2019 in Bangkok, and the ministers agreed to initiate the review of ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement after the conclusion of RCEP negotiations and to constitute a joint committee as provided in Article 70 of ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement. Now, the scope of the review of this particular agreement included the ASEAN-India Trade in Goods Agreement was signed on 13th of August 2009 and entered into force on 1st of January 2010. India agreed to consider the elements and timing for the review of the agreement. The government further says that the Trade Negotiating Committee has not been reconvened for over 2 years since the completion of the trade and services and investment agreements in the year 2012. Let's move on to the last question of this edition of Question Hour, and this one has been asked by member CM Ramesh, and this one pertains to the Ministry of Chemicals and Fertilizers. And Mr. Ramesh has asked the government about the number of drug companies in the country which have increased the prices of different drugs, including life-saving drugs, during the last 6 months.
Well, in its reply, the ministry said the National Pharmaceutical Pricing Authority, or the NPPA, doesn't maintain information in respect to number of drug companies which have increased the prices of different drugs as per provisions of Drug Prices Control Order 2013. Pharmaceutical companies may increase the price of scheduled drug as per provisions of Para 16 of the DPCO 2013 on the basis of Annual Wholesale Price Index for preceding calendar year on 1st April every year, and as per provisions of Para 20 of the DPCO 2013, manufacturers of non-scheduled formulations may increase the MRP of their formulations maximum up to 10% of the maximum retail price preceding 12 months. No specific approval is required from the government for increase in prices of the drugs.
So Rajat, these were the important questions and answers in this edition of Question Hour. But on the other side, we'll have Prashn Kal in Hindi with our colleagues Arvind Singh and Kriti Singh. Don't go anywhere.
Thanks for watching Question Hour.